place, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So I had some college football-wise I want to talk about. Reddit College Football put out their list of the top 50 media markets, and I know you mentioned...
Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
You got your hair cut.
Yeah, they commented on it like 2.5 hours ago.
I know, but I didn't notice it until now because I'm focused on... That looks great. You feel better?
Yeah, I feel that's why I did it. I didn't do it to like I felt fine with long hair, but it's just too hot. It's too hot.
No, it is. It's brutal right now.
And I had not had a legitimate haircut in well over a year. I had just done like self, trimming and things like that because my hair was so long. But yeah, it got too hot, and I needed to just change it up. So I'm thinking I'm probably going to grow it back out when it starts getting cold. So we'll see. But yeah, I did. So that was nice. But anyways, the top 50 markets, Reddit College Football put them together. And 37 of the top 50 markets are now in some way, form, or fashion tied into this new alliance.
Wow.
37 of the top 50 markets. The number one market in the country is New York. The number 50 market is New Orleans. So these are the only markets that aren't touched by the Pac-12, Big Ten, ACC alliance. The number 5 market, Dallas. Mm-hmm. You got A&M in Texas.
Yeah.
Number 8, Houston. You got A&M, Texas, and LSU. So SEC's really kind of got those right there. Then you got to go all the way to 23 for St. Louis. Mm-hmm. So that's KU, right? KU they have
Kansas
dibs over
City,
all
St.
of Missouri.
Louis, Chicago, yeah,
that's KU territory. No, but yeah, Missouri's in the SEC. Then you got to go to Nashville. That's SEC country. Mm-hmm. San Antonio, which Texas and A&M will cover that. Kansas City, which again KU will claim,
Missouri, yeah.
but Missouri. Hartford and New Haven, the 33rd market in the country.
New Haven, really?
Hartford and New Haven,
okay,
they're combined. So that's irrelevant. That's the most irrelevant city in this entire conversation. Las Vegas, 39. Austin, 40. So Las Vegas actually, though, does get touched by this because they're basically Pac-12, even though there's not a Nevada team, but they're mostly Pac-12. That's where they had their media days, right? Yeah. So you could actually count them. But then there's Austin at number 40, so that's UT, obviously. Oklahoma City at 43. Birmingham, the biggest college football market in the country, at 44. And then New Orleans, there you go, LSU at number 50. So 37 of the top 50 U.S. media markets are represented in this alliance. It's about 56% of television homes in this country. But then, the remaining 13 or so, those are pretty much all SEC for the most part. So this alliance and the SEC conference have basically, covered the top 50 markets. It's got into that Wiley, Connecticut market, although UConn tried that and it didn't work out so well.
Did you mention Orlando in there anywhere? So Dan Tipton just asked about Orlando. We're going to have a writer, Chris Vanini, join us.
18th.
Yeah.
But that's Florida State.
Yeah.
And so and Miami.
Because Orlando's actually, no, it is.
I know.
It's counted as Orlando, Daytona, Melbourne, that whole area. But yeah, Orlando was on there at number 18. And they're counted as ACC in this little graphic.
Paul, they're losing that. They're slipping.
No kidding. But
so, that doesn't really...
They're losing a viewer in Waco. So.
Yeah, that's just of interest to me when you look at the television aspect of this and you see why this alliance makes tons of sense. They've got the top 4 markets in New York, L.A., Chicago, and Philly. They've got 7 of the top 8 when you add in San Francisco and Washington, D.C. 9 of the top 10 of the top... There's got to be there had to be some conversations where I think this chart like this probably got looked over and they realized, like, look, we could cover pretty much the entire country's top 100 markets between the 3 of us. And so I'm sure that'll come into play with contract negotiations in the future, even though that's a ways out for the ACC. But it is very soon for the Pac-12 and I believe the Big Ten as well, right? So... just something else to keep in mind.
A couple of notes on that from Matthew McCallum. St. Louis is not KU territory. We were making light of that because of Kansas City.
KU put out a graphic 2 weeks ago where they were basically laying claim to Kansas City as being like their town, basically, and saying how it was like right next door, and Missouri fans had a lot of fun with that. And so, that was just a joke.
Well, here's another one. St. Louis is right next to Columbia, so it's not even close.
Sean Waffle, H2P. $4.99. Please tell West Virginia fans they have no chance of joining the ACC. This today.
What's his picture?
And I am probably,
What's his picture there?
It says Pitt. But here's here's what I know. And Paul and Craig are smart enough to stay away. I go into that little chat room. Sometimes I don't come out alive, and sometimes some of you don't come out alive. But that has been one of the biggest discussions today.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, West Virginia fans and others who just don't want them or don't like them or want to. It has been nuclear today between so many, and it's great because everyone's talking, and I don't know I don't know what's going on.
I think if you're West Virginia, one thing that's got to be somewhat concerning to you, and maybe not. This is just me, riffing basically, but. In the case of Baylor and TCU and Tech, I mean, if one of them gets an offer, they're going to throw up the deuce to the other ones in 2 seconds and be out the door. But if there is no offer coming, then there is at least a little bit of a pact that you can work with, right? Like, hey, here's Texas Tech and TCU and Baylor, and you can add them all. Whereas with West Virginia, you kind of look around and
they're on their island.
There's not really any allies anywhere close to you. So if those former rivals turned potentially allies in the ACC want to say, you know what, the door is open, Mountaineers, come on in, that'd be fantastic. But, as the Pitt fan is saying there, that's not a guarantee at all. And if that's not an option, I mean, I don't know what happens. You got to hope the Big 12 stays together.
Kansas City, we know from the Big 12 basketball tournament when we've been there, and it's been a while, but Missouri and KU.
Yeah. And
then Nebraska has a nice setup in the St. Louis, Kansas City area, despite how irrelevant they have been among some others. But there's others. Those are, St. Louis is a pro sports town. That doesn't mean they don't have college football fans. Kansas City is a pro sports town, but they do have a very nice history of college athletics as well.
Do I have time for a question?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to know what you guys think of if the Pac-12 and Big Ten and ACC come out on Friday, which is kind of what we're expecting now to proclaim what they're going to do about expansion. I'm actually leaning towards them not expanding now at this point in time based on the Pac-12 commissioner's comments, just as far as the markets we were looking at, and we kind of cover all those now. And we just read off they've got 37 in the top 50. And look, Lubbock and Waco, they're not in here. Fort Worth is lumped in with Dallas, but I will maintain until I die that TCU does not have a massive impact on the Fort Worth market.
And Waco is lumped in with Bryan College Station, which would mean that's where Texas A&M is.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Texas Tech and Baylor have strong alumni bases in Dallas and Houston, but they're not carrying those markets.
Right, no.
We know who does, Oklahoma, Texas, and the Texas A&M. But they have strong alumni bases, but that's not what we're talking about.
Okay, so that would lead you to believe that if they don't announce any new teams coming in the fold and the 8 are just stuck, it's time for expansion, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to me.
It's time for all out on the AAC or vice versa or whatever,
and the worst thing the Big 12 could hear, the 8 could hear, is them think, well, we're not really sure yet. And because that's one of those, I don't know if you've ever been in sales. You go to somebody, you propose, you sit down, you get to know them, what do they want? You go and give them a proposal, you send them a proposal, and you hear, well, I don't know. I'd rather have someone tell me no, because then I can move on or go back with something different rather than maybe. So in the case of a Pac-12 saying maybe later in the week, that doesn't do anybody any good.
Yeah, and I mean, who knows? They might come out and announce that Tech and Oklahoma State are heading there on Friday. I mean, I have no idea what their plans are, but I see a lot of Pac-12 people and some who are very good reporters who are basically eye wink it's going to be nothing, So if it's nothing, then those 8 are still stuck. And if the Pac-12, Big Ten, I mean, why would you expand after forming this alliance too, right? I mean, what would really be the point in all of that unless you just want even numbers? So, yeah, I mean, the Big 12's option, they're going to get that money from Texas and Oklahoma, but they're going to have to start actually adding some teams.
For those of you who joined us later or recently, we have discussed the alliance to death. And we have also discussed and even played about 1:15 seconds of Dave Wanstead. And then we broke down a lot of what he said. We have great respect for him. He is a Fox analyst, but there was a lot of probably. There was a lot of no one actually who said it, but it was said. It was said. It wasn't Fox executive calling Dave Wanstead. We love the guy. Maybe get him on the show this week if we can. Reached out to him, but there was still nothing that you could grab onto. But it was an interesting day when it came to his comments as well.
And I know we got to go, but those comments by the Pac-12 commissioner about wanting to help out the Big 12, or at least not Like, he didn't say we're not going to take a Big 12 team, but like they basically said, like, we want the Big 12 to do well. So I'm sure we'll learn more about that on Friday.
Of what that actually means.
Yeah.
It was actually the ACC.
Or the
Wasn't it? It was
ACC.
Coach Jim Phillips from the ACC. Yeah, they're important. We hope